In a world gone mad, only rationality and common sense can save it. It's Andrew and Jerry Save the World with your hosts, Andrew Langer and Jerry Rogers. And now, here's Andrew and Jerry.
Well, welcome everybody to episode 41 of Andrew and Jerry Save the World. Episode 41, Andrew and Jerry get in the Christmas spirit. I am Andrew Langer.
I'm Santa Jerry.
Santa Jerry. I appreciate that, Jerry.
So I'm thinking about, my wife said no, but I was going to go to the store today and dye my beard perfectly white. And Erica said, don't do it.
No. Well, then it would be very jarring once you go back. Would you dye it back or would you just sort of let it grow out?
Because it's a mix of, it's black and gray now. And to be honest with you, depending upon the length of it, it looks more black and more gray, depending upon how close I keep it or how I shave it.
Sure.
It's weird.
The longer it goes, the more white it will look.
I guess that's what it is. Yeah,
I would think so. I wanted to start off, Jerry. I heard and actually this is a good theme. Lots of conversations. I had lunch yesterday with two political science professors that I worked with and learned under, and one of them has been a good mentor to me. I had lunch with another alumnus yesterday, and there was a phrase passed which I thought was brilliant, and I'd never heard it before. No matter how thin the pancake, it always has two sides.
Interesting.
Right. I mean, I sat that then. Maybe I should have saved that for the end of the show today, but it actually gets into some of what we're going to be talking about with some of the news stories we're going to be chatting about today, because there is a lot going on. But Jerry and I have an overarching question about how the 24-hour news cycle is impacting what makes something newsworthy or not newsworthy. And it gets into another topic of conversation that Jerry and I have talked about, which is folks, and this is not just limited to journalism, but folks not willing to put in the hard work of doing the work. It actually goes into the crazy story of Trump and Kanye West and Milo Yiannopoulos and Nick Fuentes last week.
Fuentes.
Yes, but which we don't really need to get into. I think that story has been, beaten like a rented mule. Another great phrase that I've now heard in the last couple of days. How was your Thanksgiving, Jerry?
It was wonderful. We had a great time. I love Thanksgiving. I love the day after Thanksgiving. I like people in and out. I like the conversations. I like that we lay around and talk. Thanksgiving and post-Thanksgiving Friday are all about, in my house anyway, it's about conversations and books and words and yeah, the old kind of movies where we'll put on some classics and that sort of thing. But it really does revolve around conversations, and I think that's lost. I think that one of the byproducts of social media and ubiquitous phones and all of this means we talk less. We don't have in-depth conversations any longer, and for us, Thanksgiving's a throwback to let's actually talk.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. We wound up
and the food was fantastic.
Yeah, we had 16 people in the house. I cooked way too much food, but
I don't believe in it. By the way, I don't believe that you could cook too much food.
Oh no, this was a lot of food. I mean, it was the problem comes in where
how long is your leftover time frame?
Well, I 5 days for the most part.
All right, that's reasonable. Sure. Yeah. Okay, I got that. Yeah. 3 to 5 days. 3 to 5 days.
We had taken it, but it's funny because we parsed out enough turkey that we really didn't have a whole bunch of leftover turkey.
How big was your turkey? How many pounds?
So we did a 22-pounder.
That's again, in my mind, we had 8 people, and Erica had an 18-pound turkey.
All right, so we had 16 people. We had an 8-pound turkey, and then I made an extra set of turkey thighs and an extra.
Oh, so you made some extra turkey
breasts too. Yeah.
All right. You didn't say that. You didn't say that.
The best part of the evening was breaking out because I cooked the turkey parts on the rack underneath where the main bird was, and they didn't get quite as much color as the main bird did. So I wound up pulling out the blowtorch and adding a little crispiness to the skin of the breast and the thigh meat. No, we had a great group of people. One of my mom's best friends from when she was working in New York City 40 years ago came down for the week. And then my brother-in-law's brother, so my wife's sister's husband's brother, came in, and he had really only met us. I think met us, me and Jan and the girls maybe once or twice. Hadn't met any of the rest of the family, and he fit right in. It was a fun day, lots and lots of talking. And just a good time was had by all. Jerry and I were going to do a show right before Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, Jerry was sick. He's now finally getting over his illness.
Yeah, I tell you, I haven't been sick for a while. And I was so sick that I had to cancel a radio show.
Yes,
which I've never done before.
Yeah,
in years and years. But I had to call the station the day before I was due to be on, and be like, it wasn't my Sunday show. I was filling in during the week. I was like, you know what? I can't breathe. I don't know what's wrong. I can't. It was. I had aches and pains.
It was the flu. It was this flu that's going.
It was, but it lasted, Andrew. I want to say for 2 weeks.
No, I think I certainly think it was. I mean, yeah. So had we not done the show, maybe we'll do this towards the end, because I want to roll this into sort of other holiday memories, Christmas holiday memories. But Jerry and I were going to talk about those sort of Thanksgiving traditions. One of which Jerry and I both shared, which is watching classic Universal movies on Channel 9, WOR in New York, growing up. But there is other stuff that's happening in the world, and I want to start here. Jerry, this respect for marriage law. I know you've read it. I know you have this is serious stuff here, or is it right? Because there are two sides to this, and it's one of those classic dichotomies now where the traditional social conservatives are talking about it in one way. Our small L libertarian friends are talking about it in an entirely different way. There are some real dangers here to faith-based organizations, are there not?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the bill as written, depending upon, legal action lawsuits, churches can lose their tax-exempt status. Parachurch groups, Christian organizations, healthcare organizations, and other nonprofits could lose licenses and the ability to get a license. They could lose their nonprofit status, tax exempt status. It's all right there. And here's the thing. We could talk about it, but it's going to play out. And just remember this day, this podcast, and we'll come back and say, look, this is why this is happening. And what's most concerning to me is that it could have been fixed.
Yes.
There could have been robust protections. However, Republicans would not go for it. Democrats wouldn't go for it either. Here's the bottom line. I saw that John Tester, Democrat senator from Montana, tweeted out, the government should not be in the business of marriage.
Yes.
After he votes on a piece of legislation that puts the government right in the middle of marriage.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, it's as if our political leaders just simply don't understand what they're doing. Same-sex marriage, interracial marriage, neither is under threat.
Right.
This is government interference. Marriage is a state issue.
Well,
frankly, I wonder if, again, with the way the court is so constructed, I wonder now if a Christian group gets standing, could they sue? Could they take this to the Supreme Court? And this law, this wrongly named Respect for Marriage Act, could it be thrown out by a center-right Supreme Court?
That's part of what the left is doing, right? You and I have been, especially
of course they
in
are.
recent months,
Yeah,
have been
they're smarter
about
than us.
The left playing the long game in all of these things.
Yeah,
this
100%
really
correct.
about. It's not about. You're right, because interracial marriage, gay marriage, those are not really under threat.
No, nowhere.
And there is. It really is. You talk about three-dimensional chess being played, because part of it is to get at the idea of. It's part of the conversation I had yesterday. The idea of, it used to be, and you and I have talked about this at length, you used to be able to have your own conscience and beliefs about things, and you can hold those things, and you know, if somebody else wanted to force you to believe something, well, they couldn't do that. Now it really is this concept of you will be made to care. We had a whole podcast based on this.
Well, and again,
hold on, Jerry. Let me finish my thought though, because there are two things going on here, and it gets down to if this stands and they're able to force people to engage in actions that are in abeyance of their or go against their conscience, well, that's a victory for the left. The other side of this is also that if it goes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court overturns it, well, this is yet another example of why we need to pack the Supreme Court, or why there needs to be a term limit on justices, or why, you know, we need to protest at Supreme Court justices' homes. By the way, we are now well past 6 months and we still don't know who leaked the Dobbs decision. Oh my God. Are you following this crazy story out of the law firm in DC, Jerry?
Yes, one of their retired but yet equity partners was forced out, was told to resign.
Let's set the stage. This is Hogan Lovells, which is one of the largest law firms in the country.
In the world.
Yes, in the world. You know, one of their partners in their DC firm, 40 plus year career. She graduated from law school, went to Harvard undergrad. I don't remember where she went to law school. You know, a woman, 40-year partner at a major worldwide law firm, voices her opinion and her convictions, says the factual statement that more black babies proportionally are aborted than white babies, and that she is uncomfortable with that. And yet, because people were uncomfortable or offended by her statement, she is essentially fired from her gig. Go ahead.
And she was fired without due process, in that she was just suddenly, abruptly cut off.
Terminated, yes.
From her clients, from her email, and these sorts of things. But look, back up, take a step back. The phone call she was on was set up by the law firm as a quote unquote safe space for women to discuss the horrid decision of Dobbs.
Right.
And so she came out and said also that, well, no, Dobbs is a good decision. Even liberal jurists have said that Roe was wrongly decided.
Right.
This is not something that is a surprise to us. And then having abortion policy go back to the states is exactly where this issue should be. And then I guess later on she talked about how, and it's true, right? There have been many years. We've documented it here on our various podcasts. We've talked about it on the radio, and that is in New York City. There are more black babies aborted than born.
Yes.
I mean, this is outrageous. And it's a fact. It's a true thing. And because someone is made to feel uncomfortable, well, then maybe you should ask yourself the question, you know, why are we engaged in this public discussion where Democrats, progressives, the left, the media say that abortion should be legal from conception until birth? It is barbarism. It is grotesque.
And let's flip that aside. Why is it that their prevailing narrative is the one that is the upheld one, and anybody who defies that narrative makes the other people feel uncomfortable, and therefore they should be driven from society? Why is it not that I am, you know, if someone is shouting to the high heavens how much they love abortion, and that makes me uncomfortable because more black babies are being aborted than are being aborted in New York, that offends, you know, that concept. Right. You know, is makes the idea of abortion disturbing to me.
And this is tied in with the so-called Respect Marriage Act, because we're going to get into situations where if a policy expert, if a religious leader, if the president of a sports organization says that they believe marriage is one man, one woman for life, they will be at risk of losing licenses, losing their livelihood, losing nonprofit status, and all the rest of it. Just recently, in the last week, one of the big soccer clubs, football clubs in Australia, hired a new president of the club. and he was forced out. He was forced to resign because he's a Christian.
Yes.
And attends a regular, normal kind of Christian church where they teach that abortion and same-sex activity are sinful.
Right.
And he was told, resign from your church or resign from being president of this football club. He was forced to resign. This is where we're heading. And what bothers me, I'll just say this. What bothers me is it used to be where you could hold two positions where, I believe divorce is immoral. I mean, look,
yes,
in the just for my Christian friends, in the Gospels, Jesus says flat out that if you divorce your wife and remarry, you're living in adultery, period. Yeah. So for the Christian, from Jesus's own mouth, divorce is sin. It doesn't mean that God doesn't love you. It doesn't mean there's not redemption or all the rest of it, but it's very clear it's sin. Does that mean that I want divorce to be illegal in the U.S.? Of course not.
Right.
And similarly with marriage. Again, if two free people want to organize themselves in a way where they're contracted to each other, then so be it. And they should live with dignity and within the law.
Let's take the next step.
But we're moving past that, though.
But yes, but let's also take the next step, which is that if you are in a church and your church's doctrine says that your church is going to sanction the marriage of two people who are of the same sex or whatever, then
so be it.
That's the liberty of your church to do that.
But if there are churches,
government, to make that
decision. Our church had to rewrite its bylaws and constitution. Because they are anticipating these lawsuits, and
this gets into another story, Jerry, because I want to sort of wind this through a thread here, because we also now know this week that Sheldon Whitehouse, senator from Rhode Island, that Sheldon Whitehouse was trying to go after the tax exempt status of nonprofit organizations that were violating CDC guidelines on mask wearing. I don't know if you caught this.
No, but Whitehouse, he's a brilliant senator in that he has been going after, again, this is kind of like Operation Choke Point from the Obama years. You're going after the banking and the finances of these organizations against which you're against their ideology or their agenda, and he's going after them through licensing nonprofits. The same thing, this is the same guy, Senator Whitehouse, who wanted to expose all these groups that file amicus briefs.
Yes,
that he disagrees with. Where do they get their money from? Should we question their nonprofit status? I mean, he's a bully. He's a bully.
But this is the point in the end, in that, and tying all of these things together. We are living, and I said something the other day about living in a Kafkaesque world, which, is talking about the absurdities of things. But we are living in a world imagined by Lavrenti Beria. And Lavrenti Beria was the head of the Russian secret police. And he had a famous line, which is, "Show me the man and I will show you the crime."
Sure.
When government power is so expansive as to wend its way into every facet of everyday life, it gives those in power the ability to use very small aspects of the law to exert enormous political and sociological pressure on individuals and groups. That's what they do. It's funny, Jerry, because a lot of folks don't know. We talk about this in terms of, I'm not overstating this in terms of Soviet tactics, by the way. Beria is probably an extreme example of all of this. But one of the things I used to talk about in the past was property rights and how the Soviet Constitution guaranteed things like freedom of religion and freedom of the press. But the one thing they didn't guarantee was private property rights. So the government could threaten the property of all kinds of people to sort of kowtow to government policy. A government that is large enough to give you everything is powerful enough to take it all away.
Sure.
And so in this kind of an environment, right, where certain rights are guaranteed, if they are chipped away at in these weird things, right, we're guaranteed freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. But if a group can be shut down by Sheldon Whitehouse or have their tax exempt status revoked because they don't want to wear masks at a gathering and they don't want to exercise social distancing suggestions, then in fact we don't have free speech. We don't have freedom of the press. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And also, again, what's bothersome about all of this is, in my mind, where is the church? Where are the communities of faith? Where are what C.S. Lewis called the little platoons? So this bill, this respect marriage legislation, was voted on over. Actually, it started months ago. You know, in the House of Representatives. So this issue has been before the Congress now since the summer.
Hey,
well, I go to church at my church. I'm very much involved. My wife is a Bible teacher, and she's also the head of children's ministry. So we are embedded in our church. This never came up.
You know, by the way, on the issue of little platoons, real quick, I talked with David Stockman last Friday, which was amazing for me. I'm getting him on the other podcast. We're going to try to get him on this podcast as well. David Stockman, former director of the Office of Management and Budget under Reagan, author of a book that changed my life called The Triumph of Politics. But I mentioned the little platoons model to him on the air, and he loved that. There's a long way to go to humble brag that I talked to David Stockman, but also, Jerry, I was humbly bragging about you because it's your theory.
But the thing is that our public discussion now is lacking the influence of little platoons. Look, Marvin Olasky wrote a book years and years ago, 2 decades ago, called The Tragedy of American Compassion. And that is, it used to be where Americans took care of each other, private organizations, little platoons, etc. But now the government is so ubiquitous, so big, interferes in so many different areas that it has begun to and successfully is squeezing out of the marketplace all these little platoons. But let me say this real quick.
Yeah.
You know, before the Supreme Court decision on same-sex marriage, there were, I think, 36 states. Or I think it was 36. I have to check that, but it was, I mean, more than 2/3 of the states already had some kind of civil union or same-sex marriage recognition. Maryland did, for instance, right? Yeah. And during the state fights, it was very telling. If you watch the coalition of groups and advocates pushing for same-sex marriage, because they would, once they saw victory, they would begin to tell the truth. And one thing that is abundantly clear from their own literature and their own mouths is they believe, and they believe they will win, when sexual rights butt up against religious rights.
Right.
They believe that sexual rights will prevail. And that's what we're seeing. Whether it's transgenderism, whether it's this gender affirming care, whether it's abortion, whether it's same-sex marriage, it's not so much that we're becoming more liberal, and I mean liberal in the good sense, more free, accepting of more people. What's happening is we're actually driving people out of their jobs and their livelihoods and out of the public discourse. And this is really the tyranny of the left, which is why, again, and you can comment on this, is why they're so overly focused on the idea of democracy and not on constitutional republicanism.
Right.
They know that if they can convince enough people, that they could have the tyranny of the majority.
Well, this gets into why they're tearing at the other foundations of American republicanism, right? Why they're tearing at American history. This, not just the 1619 Project, but what they're doing at Montpelier, James Madison's home, what they tried to do at Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's home. This is a good entree into this, Jerry, because I know he was a hero to you. You were going to start an institute for this. Are you tracking what they're doing at Princeton with John Witherspoon? They're talking about removing the John Witherspoon statue at Princeton.
That's insane. Jonathan Witherspoon, of course, the founder of Princeton University, the only minister, the only reverend to sign the Declaration of Independence. He truly is a heroic founding father, and Princeton wants to remove him from the campus.
Yes, I mean, you know,
what's their reason?
Well, their reason is I believe Witherspoon at one time had slaves. He was a founding father who I guess was a white supremacist and supported, all of the usual baffle garb about how racist the founding fathers were. but again, it's not about, right. The justification is that, he did X, Y, or Z, but the reality is the reason underpinning this is tearing at the fabric, so that we don't have a common heritage in the United States.
Right. It's true, but it's funny, if we took them at their word. So I'm sure
I'm going to pull this up
Princeton
so I can read it to you.
or any leftist organization support the idea of indigenous people's rights, of going back and enforcing treaties that the United States government broke, of protecting indigenous people's lands, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if slavery is this unpardonable sin, then maybe we should go back and look at the behavior of North American indigenous people groups and how they engaged in genocide and slavery. And maybe if it turns out that the Apache or the Comanche or the Sioux or whatever people group it is engaged in slavery, well, maybe as a penalty they should lose their
right.
Tribal status or lose their reservation lands. The point is, if we're going to throw Jonathan Witherspoon off of the campus at Princeton in New Jersey, well, then why don't we just have this standard apply to all of the earliest Americans?
So this is from the Daily Princetonian from a year ago. There's entitled "Sorry Witherspoon, You Need to Go," and the author writes, Witherspoon, a signatory of the Declaration of Independence, renovator of the university, and the sixth president of the university, had a very complex relationship with slavery. He tutored African and African American students, yet publicly lectured and voted against the abolition of slavery. He characterized the slave trade as, quote, unlawful to make inroads upon others by no better right than superior power, yet maintained his slaves, whom he left behind to his estate after he passed away.
So Jonathan Witherspoon engaged in the customs of the day,
yes,
while at the same time recognizing the unique humanity of Africans brought here as slaves.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds to me like Witherspoon's behavior towards African Americans, towards slaves, we should be rewarding him because it was his behavior and his attitude that eventually led to the abolition of slaves.
Right. I mean,
again, was that written by a professor or
no? That was written by a student.
Well, of course it was.
Yes.
Here's another part of the problem. It used to be where grown people would instruct growing people, and now it's we have we've made youth into a god in this country.
Listen,
and it's time to tell young people your brain isn't fully
developed. And I've said
yet.
It again. Moving the voting age from 21 to 18 is a mistake that needs to be. Listen, I say this, and people say I think I say this as a joke. I don't say this as a joke. I mean, I laugh about it. Certainly, I don't think the voting age should be reduced from 18 to 16, which a number of folks have been trying to do around the country, all progressive Democrats. But the justification for lowering the voting age from 21 to 18 was when we had active conscription. We had a draft going on. And I get it. If you're gonna draft an 18-year-old to go and die for your country, then that 18-year-old should have some kind of say. Well, now we have an all-volunteer army. So guess what? The justification for voting age being 18 has gone out the window. And as we move up and we skew upwards the age of adolescence from right. 18 to 21 for all kinds of things, right? Beer.
Well, not just that, it's 26.
But there's 26 for healthcare. Yes.
It's funny. This would never happen, but I wonder sometimes if you're a citizen and you receive 80% of your livelihood from the government, from the feds, from the state, from local. If it's Section 8 housing, welfare payments, if it's SNAP, food stamps, if it's wraparound services in public schools,
right.
etc. Maybe there ought to be how are they voting?
Right, Jerry, time out. Let me give you the analog, right? If we are moving down the road as we should of outlawing members of Congress from trading stocks while they're in office,
yes.
or we have very strict laws and ethics codes about elected officials being able to profit from their offices, right? You don't want anybody, right? Then we have to ask the question, if people are profiting off of their vote, right? When you rob Peter to pay Paul, you will always have the support of Paul. It just goes down that road. And so the question then becomes, is there not some kind of ethical inequity if folks are voting to put money in their own pockets at the expense of somebody else?
Right.
It's that,
and
again,
also
right, it comes down to democracy.
Bring it to the next step too. What if I have children who are still on my health insurance up to the age of 26?
Right.
Can they go and vote on for Bernie Sanders, who wants to make it so they can stay on my insurance until age 30?
Yeah.
I mean, again, I do think, again, we with freedom, with citizenship, there's also some responsibility. And again, it seems like we hear a lot about voter suppression and let's support democracy and everyone go out and vote. But I mean, maybe we should have a national conversation on how folks. I'll give you an example. So Erica's watching the news today. My beautiful wife Erica's watching the news today, and one of the reporters asks the White House spokesperson, when is the president going to visit
the border?
Right. And she says, well, he's been to the border.
Yes.
But no, he hasn't.
Yes.
My point is that there are tens of millions of Americans. I'll engage over Thanksgiving or over dinner, say, hey, to my mother-in-law, to a cousin or a friend, and say, hey, we have a border crisis. The president really should get down there, at least to show that he is empathetic and understands there's a problem. Well, what do you mean, Jerry? He's been to the border. Well, yes. No, he hasn't. He hasn't been to the border. Well,
Jerry, let me hold on.
I was watching the news, and the news says he was. My point is, there seems to be people who vote and have no idea what they're voting on.
That's right. Well, hold on. Let me pull this up, Jerry. This is Karin Jean Pierre in a colloquy with Peter Doocy.
Kevin McCarthy says that he invited President Biden down to the border. How does the president RSVP? Well, we know the president's never been down to the border. The possible next speaker says that he wants him to go with him. So is he going to?
So look, he's been there. He's been to the border, and since he took office.
When did he go to the border?
Since he took office, the President Biden has been taking action to fix our immigration system and secure our border.
What action?
That's why on day one he put forward an immigration reform, a piece of legislation to deal with what is currently happening at the border. But that we're not seeing that from Republicans. We're not seeing a willingness to work with us on fixing a situation that's been around for decades now. Instead, they're doing political stunts. That's what they want to do. That's how they want to take care of the situation. But in the meantime, the president has secured record levels of funding for the Department of Homeland Security. We have over 23,000 agents working to secure the border. We've taken thousands of smugglers off the streets, and we're cutting down on asylum processing times. And a number of individuals arriving.
Does she even know what she's saying?
From northern
she's reading.
America and Venezuela is coming down significantly because of the action.
She reads as if she has no understanding of the words she's reading.
Oh, I guess that's it. So she doesn't actually answer the question, and that's it's interesting because this gets into the other topic I wanted to talk about today, Jerry, which is this issue of laziness. Right? She thinks that they're not going to check up on this, or that nobody's going to call her on this.
No one will call her on it.
Well, last week there was the whole situation with asking folks in the healthcare environment about the origin of COVID. And she actually got angry at the reporters who dared to ask that question. There are reporters who are asking those questions, but so many of them are not that, listen, I think it's the snake eating the tail.
But the thing is that, I mean, big deal you asked the question. Because, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, did it make a sound? I mean, The problem is that, again, going back to we started, the 24/7 news cycle requires that there's lots of clickbait and lots of quick stories and lots of, did you hear this or see that? And there's very little, if any, investigative reporting or follow-up reporting, and very few reporters are actually expert in the fields they cover.
Well, here is part of the problem, right? And this is on the conservative side of things, holding progressives accountable. The only good investigative work is being done by conservative organizations that sort of have that conservative moniker attached to it. So the mainstream media is going to discount it automatically. Part of the reason why we're talking about this is I raised a story with Jerry right before we went on the air, which is a story that I've been looking at the last couple of days, but the same things have been repeated. Joe Biden leaves Nantucket on Sunday. On Monday, the five of the vehicles that the Secret Service rented on Nantucket, the day after Joe Biden leaves, 5 of the vehicles that were rented caught on fire and burned to the ground. And all we know is that 5 vehicles burned to the ground. We don't know why. We don't know where it started. We don't have any of the pertinent details, right? And it's the president of the United States who just left vacation. And we don't know if it's sabotage. We don't know if it's that because one of the vehicles was under a recall and it could have been an electric vehicle that caught on fire. And is it not right? It lends itself to talking about conspiracy theories, which is part of the problem that we have, right? Whether or not it is reporters not asking about election slowdowns in terms of counting or being stonewalled on those, right, or the Paul Pelosi story and pertinent details being left out. There was this big debate that Matt Taibbi and I want to say Charles Murray just had over the lack of quality journalism happening. Anyway, go ahead, Jerry.
Well, I was going to say this: the question is less important than the follow up. See, right. That's what's lacking. So, again, we'll hear, see, read myriad stories about a mass shooting.
Yes.
And it'll last 2 or 3 or 4 days, depending if it has the correct left narrative, it'll go on forever. But after a couple, 3 days, if the narrative can't be leveraged by the left, the story's dropped. And we never find out what happened, why,
right?
What's the family background? How did they get the weapon? We never find these things out. The same is true, like, again, this same-sex marriage bill. Yeah, there was, I think the Heritage Foundation had a very good analysis of it, and a couple of places, the Federalist and some other places, did some pieces on it, but there was no follow-up. There was no examination. Our public discourse today lacks examination by both the right and left. The right is guilty of this too. I mean, I challenge you, go to any of the think tanks that we follow and look and see how frequently their websites are updated. Are they producing new research and commentary on a daily basis? No, they're not. First. Second, what about all the events and podcasts and seminars and salon dinners and conferences? Where can I go right now to find out where all the best conferences are on immigration? It doesn't exist. My point is,
yes,
right. It doesn't exist.
I'm waiting for real clear calendars, Jerry.
Well, I mean, but here's the thing, and that is so we have this industrial think tank complex on the right that has billions of dollars, Andrew. And I'll ask you this question. Yeah. Are we better off today than 10 years ago, than 20 years ago? We've spent more money on public policy in terms of think tanks, but what have the think tanks accomplished?
Well, this is a conversation you and I had over the summer, and then a conversation that I had with a former colleague of ours from CEI who asked that very question of me over dinner one night while I was on vacation. And that I think that is a legitimate question to ask. We are at the same time we are losing the little platoons battle. Right, we are losing the large engagement battles as well. So I want to go back to this story just real quick, because so the Detroit Free Press is reporting on it, because obviously it's Detroit, so they're reporting on cars. So they're saying that the fire may have started in this Ford Expedition, and that apparently the 2021 Ford Expedition is under a recall notice because engine fires can start. This, Jerry, may be the first time I've ever heard of a vehicle owned by, or not owned by, because it wasn't owned by the Secret Service, but a vehicle under the control of the Secret Service ever sort of getting caught up in a vehicle recall suspicious fire situation. I mean, I suppose it was just a matter of time before it happened. But again, because there isn't all this reporting on it, and you don't have somebody sort of on the ground, and nobody's doing the follow-up, we're not getting it out there. Sorry, Jerry's pulled. Anyway, I was gonna say something else.
I'm sorry. I'm doing two things at once.
I know you are. It's fine. It's just it is a crazy story. And again, not saying anything nefarious, but let's assume for a moment, as I always like to go back to.
Although just for fun and giggles, I don't think it's a big story. I told you this off when we started.
Okay, but this is where I was going to, Jerry. But
okay.
if 5 vehicles had caught on fire under the Donald Trump presidency, let's say that they were down at Mar-a-Lago and 5 vehicles down at Mar-a-Lago caught on fire.
Yeah.
Again, it would be a big story. Yes, it would be. The press would be all over it because, oh my God, what's going on? What did Donald Trump do? How is this Donald Trump's fault? Would be the way that they sort of go down this road. This is clearly a White House that is right. The story would be because the White House is in such chaos, the Secret Service has lost their edge, and they're being compromised, and the safety of the White House is being compromised because of something that Donald Trump did. Remember, this is the same press that said that Donald Trump couldn't handle not COVID. No. It was the ones that said that the Republicans were responsible for Ebola because they wouldn't support Obama's nominee for Surgeon General. The press is going to write a story. It's just it is going to be a thing. All I'm saying is we talk about consistency here. Listen, I want to shift gears because I want to talk about holiday stuff, and I've got a brand new TV recommendation that Jerry is going to disagree with.
What is it? I've been a little disappointed with your recommendations.
Oh, no, I know this. I know. I started watching.
What was the last one?
The last one was Reboot. You hate it.
I didn't like it.
Between Reboot and Fly on the Wall, the Fly on the Wall podcast. You haven't liked either.
Well, the Fly on the Wall podcast I still listen to.
Yeah.
Because I like Dana Carvey and I like David Spade. I think they're funny, and I do like some of the stories about the early days of Saturday Night Live. They do have good guests.
Yes. Well,
they've had Chris Rock. They've had Chris Rock on. So I guess with Fly on the Wall, my expectation was so high for it, and maybe I should have just gone into it with a hey, this
reboot.
May not work.
Reboot. You just didn't plain like. I understand this, but so the new show, Tulsa King.
Oh, I love it.
All right, good. Okay.
Oh, it's fantastic. Are you joking? Yeah. It's fantastic.
I watched the first episode last night, and I'm all in.
It's great,
folks. This is this new series by Taylor Sheridan, who does Yellowstone and The Mayor of Kingstown, and he did a bunch of good movies. Hell or High Water is one of my favorites.
Yes, that's great.
Isn't that a great movie?
With
Chris Pine
and Tom Hardy. No, it wasn't Tom Hardy.
Chris Pine and Ben Foster.
That's right, Ben Foster. Yeah. That is a really good movie.
If you haven't seen that
now we're back again.
We're
back together again.
So Tulsa King, Sylvester Stallone plays a mobster who was in prison for 25 years.
Yep.
And he is exiled to Tulsa. And it's so great how he's starting to take over the city.
Although there's a twist in the second episode which I didn't like.
Okay, well I haven't watched this yet,
but it's only because I've watched enough TV, movies now, read enough books where I don't like it when they write in a conflict that is not organic. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like even
Sure.
Peaky Blinders. I love the Peaky Blinders.
Yes, but then all of
I
a
haven't
sudden
seen
I
haven't seen the last season yet. But
okay, but before the last season, when he goes to Parliament and he hooks up with the neo-Nazi.
Yes, what the heck's going on?
I agree.
Right?
I agree. Yes, that
so
was
stupid. Even I mean, like other shows, like I watched a couple of seasons,
like when Happy Days goes to L.A. and finds,
or no, or when Richie married Laura Beth,
Lori Beth,
and the Fonz stood in as proxy.
Yes. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You can't really.
He's in Greenland. By that point,
Greenland.
they had literally jumped the shark by that point.
Oh yeah.
So Tulsa King recommended. Cannot recommend it highly enough. All right, I want to ask you. So, have you started getting? Have you guys gotten your Christmas decorations
up? God bless you.
Thank you.
We purposefully wait until after. God bless you.
Yeah.
We purposefully wait until after the day after
Thanksgiving,
the days after Thanksgiving. So what we've done is we were going to get our Christmas trees the Sunday after Thanksgiving, but if you recall, it was a horrible, no good rainy day.
Yes, I do.
And so what we decided to do, that was this past Sunday. What we decided to do was we're spending this week getting the house ready for decoration. So Erica has the hollies going up, the mistletoe is up, the mantle decorations are up. And we're going to decorate this week. I'll probably put the lights up today or tomorrow. But this Sunday, we're going to mail our lists to Santa Claus.
Nice.
And the big reveal. No one has revealed their list yet. So Sunday's going to be the big reveal, and we will go out and get a Christmas tree. We're going to get trees. We usually get a big tree for the family room, a smaller tree for the front parlor. For the family room, and then a smaller tree. We call it the white tree because we just put white lights on it. And then I want a Christmas tree in my bedroom this year.
Okay.
I told Eric I want to get a small, real tree to put into the corner because I know Christmas is all about the birth of Jesus. I get that. But because I'm a human being and because I have 5 children and because I have a mortgage and tuition payments, Christmas also brings with it some stress, some anxiety.
Yeah.
Financial stress and anxiety. And I know that consumerism, and we shouldn't bow to that, but you know what? We're only human. One of the pleasures, though, that is still a pleasure for me as a grown-up is shutting all the lights off.
100%.
Putting the lights on and putting Christmas music on and just sitting and abiding and relaxing and not worrying. And so I'm trying this year, Andrew. Our modern culture has it that we are, all of us, in a constant low-grade stress, a constant low-grade anxiety. And it's not how God wants us to live. We're not meant to live this way. And so I'm trying this Christmas season really to be mindful of anxiety and stress, and I'm trying to give it away. We'll see how that works out.
Well, sitting in front of it's one of those things, putting on the Christmas music, sitting in front of the lights. That's something my wife and I have been doing since we started dating in college years ago. We now have a second tree up, which we've never done before. We bought a couple of years ago for the room that our daughters were using as study rooms during COVID. They had them put up a tree in there. We were under a bit of a time constraint because this is the first year that we're empty nesters. And with both kids going back to college on Sunday after Thanksgiving, we wanted to get our stuff together and up. So we actually got the trees up, and we do artificial trees now. We've sort of got out of the habit of getting real trees a few years back. And apart from the pine smell, there's a convenience factor that is at work here. I did not, Jerry. You will be proud of me. I don't think I've told you about this. I have not gotten the Christmas lights up outside. I installed a security light outside. Did I tell you about this?
You did, yes.
I did, yes. So, I'm not known as a handy guy. I'm not, I got one brother who's really good at doing household repairs. I got another brother who does woodworking and other kinds of things. But I actually got a security light installed outside. We had when my mom and my dad and my mom's friend came over, and we were getting my mom reloaded in the car because I think I told you my mom is confined to a wheelchair nowadays. And just out on I made the mad dash on Thanksgiving to replace the light bulbs above our front door.
Yeah,
because we basically, I'll say it, out of each of our sconces has room for 3 light bulbs, and only 1 light bulb was working on one side. I just let it go.
Now you could replace the light bulbs.
No, I did. That's what I did.
All right.
But that's on the front of the house. The driveway and the garage are on the side of the house. And so there was this just dark spot where we were trying to load my mom into the car. And so we're all out there. So I wound up getting and installing a light. We've talked about this before. I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast because we're coming up on our first anniversary. Favorite, we talked about Thanksgiving and TV, Christmas TV movies. Have you seen the new Christmas Story movie yet?
No, not yet. Although I'll admit this, I was never a big fan of the original.
I agree. Yes. Yeah.
So,
but I want to watch the
Yeah,
sequel.
me too. I'll have to watch the original and then watch the second one again. Christmas for me, I love A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And there are various iterations of it that I enjoy. I like the Mr. Magoo
Here.
cartoon, right?
I subject my family to Mr. Magoo Christmas Carol. I don't know if you know this, by the way.
Yeah.
The Mr. Magoo Christmas Carol, which if you haven't seen it, is a show within a show. Right.
Yes.
So it's not just him, but it's him doing a musical version of the Christmas Carol on Broadway. Music written by Julie Stein, who is a very famous Broadway composer. Worked with Stephen Sondheim, worked with Rodgers and Hammerstein and others. So a brilliant composer, Julie Stein. So I love it. And there are videos, Jerry. Here's one of my things that I want to do at some point. Before COVID, there was one organization that every other year was doing a live version of Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol on off Broadway in New York City. It is something that obviously lends itself well to a live production. I want to go see that. But anyway, go ahead.
No, but there are other Christmas Carol iterations that I like. I like the Jim Carrey. I like that. I do like it. I like the older versions. Black and white. I don't like some of the more modern ones. Bill Murray's Scrooged. It's all right.
Oh, I love Scrooged.
I don't dislike it. I don't dislike it, but it's not a must. If it's on, I'll watch it. Yeah. But there are other shows or movies that are much a watch for me. Like, I know it's cliche, but my favorite movie of all time, and still my favorite movie, is It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
I love it. It's
not a success when it first came out. You know what I watched over the weekend was the original Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes, wonderful.
With Edmund Gwenn and Natalie Wood. And that got me right here.
Yeah, but what I love about it too, because it aged well.
Yes,
Men with hats and even the New York accent of the Manhattan accent.
Sure. Yes.
I mean it's and
the kid
Gimbals,
from Brooklyn.
and right, yes, but also the rivalry between Gimbals and Macy's. People don't realize, there is in the old Gimbals building in Manhattan, there is one of the few remaining building bridges.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a bridge that connects two buildings, and what it is during the heyday of the Gimbals Macy's wars, Gimbals was expanding, and they bought a building across the street, so 34th Street, whatever,
right.
down there, and they wanted to connect the two buildings because it was Gimbals. And today it's still there, but it cost the budget was huge, and these great architects had to be engaged in it. But again, the original captures that kind of Macy's Gimbals relationship. That the second one's not bad, but it's
wait a minute. By the second one, you mean the modern one with Attenborough as Santa Claus?
Yes.
You don't mean the David Hartman one from the 70s, which nobody remembers. That there was a version of it with David Hartman from the 1970s. That is just absolutely, listen, it is like, I don't know if It is as different from the original as Billy Jack Goes to Washington is as different as Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
David Hartman, wasn't he
Good Morning America?
Yeah, Good Morning America.
Yes, there was a version with him. I'm a huge fan of the Charlie Brown Christmas special. In fact,
of course,
I will sit there and listen to the soundtrack as I'm looking at the lights on the tree.
Well, that's another thing too, is Christmas music. I love all kinds of Christmas music. I don't like some of there's a remake now of the John Lennon Christmas song, which I think is just horrible. But I like to listen to Celtic music, old English hymns and carols. I love the kind of 1950s Darlene Love and Elvis Presley music.
Jerry, the tune "Happy Christmas, War is Over If You Want It," later used in the New York City area commercials. Come Back to Jamaica. I swear to God, same tune. You go and look that up on YouTube.
I mean, I could tolerate the John Lennon original, but this remake is it's horrible.
So prefer Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney to John Lennon's Happy Christmas, War is Over If You Want It.
I prefer Paul McCartney, period.
Yeah, yes.
Over John Lennon.
Yes, especially the post Beatles work. No, for me, I still come back to, I said this on the air on Friday. He swears up and down that it's not a Christmas tune. But I believe in Father Christmas as opposed to Father Christmas by the Kings. I believe in Father Christmas by both Greg Lake and then later Emerson, Lake and Palmer. He wrote it really as sort of a peace hymn. And in some ways it can be a little cynical, but it's got this great sentiment, which is, I wish you a hopeful Christmas. I wish you a brave new year. All anguish, pain, and sadness leave your heart and let your road be clear. I love that line.
Yeah.
So I that's usually the very first Christmas song that I will play. Then I like the full range of novelty.
Yeah, me too.
Ones.
I've been playing Christmas music since even before Thanksgiving. It drove my kids crazy. I did. I love it. I listened to it today in the car. I had it on Spotify. I like that Wash FM is now in full holiday songs. And the Christian station WGTS is also playing Christmas songs. I love Christmas. I love Christmas songs. I love family.
I will tell you what kicks it off for my family, for like my brothers and with my brothers. What kicks off the Christmas holiday is Dominic the Donkey.
Erica hates that song. I like it.
My brothers and I love it. And it's one of those things
Italian
where
Christmas donkey.
It was made big on Z100 in New York.
Yes.
But after I stopped listening to Z100 and switched over to 1027 WNEW.
What are the newer movies that aren't all new? I mean, I like the Santa Claus movie.
Well, they got a new one coming out, right? They got a couple of these.
Well, it's a TV show now. So I think it's a streaming show now.
Oh, listen, we just watched the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Oh, really?
And I enjoyed that immensely. I mean, listen, it's not.
It got a reviewer that I listened to said it was really good. So maybe I'll
I enjoyed that. We put sort of it to the girls. Do you want to watch the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special or the sequel to the Christmas Story? They chose the Guardians.
Now, what about family vacation Christmas?
All right, I'm going to admit this on the air, Jerry. I have never seen Christmas Vacation.
Really?
I've never seen it.
I can't believe it.
I in fact, I didn't see European Vacation
possible?
until many years after European Vacation came out. Like
I've seen Vegas and now Vacation. You wish you didn't see it, right? It wasn't very good.
I love Vegas Vacation. Vegas Vacation's a great movie.
Tonight you should watch Christmas Vacation.
No, so tonight we're watching the next 2 episodes of Tulsa King. Right? I mean, if I have to make that choice, Tulsa King versus it's actually, speaking of Christmas songs real quick, because I just was reminded of one that I hadn't thought of in a while, but Glad Tidings by Van Morrison is one that I never.
Hey, did you do your Spotify wrap up?
Okay, so I don't do Spotify.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, my number one artist was Van Morrison.
That doesn't surprise me. No, I do. I use Amazon Music. I wonder if they have something similar, because I'm already paying for it. So yeah, I do. Or I have the stuff that I've already have loaded onto my phone. So
all right.
So we've got, Jerry, a 1-year anniversary coming up. We've got to do some stuff in DC over the holidays. You're getting invitations right and left. Any parties that you and I could broadcast from? Putting you on the spot here.
So a lot of the think tanks, holiday parties, but I don't like going to these things.
I know you don't.
I'm such a stay at home. I was invited to and maybe I should have gone, but now that being editor of Real Clear Policy, I'm getting invited to these news organizations, their new member meetings,
nice,
or their new member receptions. Yeah, but again, like, what do I care?
Well,
seriously, so I go to the Hill and go to a reception with new members of Congress. What do I care about these new members of Congress?
Well, Jerry, you gotta get to know them. You got to network. They got to get to, more to the point, they got to get to know you. That's the important thing.
Well, then let them find me. Then
I'm going to a thing. I'm going to a pre-Hanukkah happy hour on Tuesday. I'm excited
Excellent.
for that. Former Hill and administration officials are putting together. So I'm
one of my favorite holiday songs.
The Hanukkah song.
Yeah,
not the dreidel song. Yes,
I like dreidel too. I grew up. Remember when we moved from the Bronx to Jersey, Fairlawn was predominantly Orthodox Jewish.
Yes,
and so we had music class. Remember the old days? We had music class.
Sure,
music class?
Course. Oh yeah,
so music class. And during the holiday time, we would learn all these Jewish Hanukkah songs.
Well, you learn
dreidel,
the dreidel song. I mean, that's really the only one.
No, there were other songs.
Happy Times Are Here for the Festival of Lights. Those are probably the other one you learned. As I'm looking down, I don't know. Those are the only two that What?
There was some. I'll get a list.
So, but I remember other songs from music class in elementary school. Ones that I've tried to find that I can't find anymore. The one the one you will probably know is Molly Malone.
Yes. Well,
yes. Cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh.
Alive.
Oh. All right, Gerald. So what do you want? When are you on? What's your schedule?
Selling her wares.
Cockles and mussels.
Know. I'm on Sunday, my show, the Jerry Rogers Show on WBAL. I'm filling in, I think, Monday. Monday's whatever the date is. What is it?
Monday is the 5th.
Monday the 5th. I'm filling in 10 to 2. I might go to the city on Monday because one of the think tanks that I really do appreciate, it's their holiday party, and my daughter's boyfriend is now a research fellow there, research assistant there. So I don't know. We'll see.
So you keep me apprised of these things. So here's my schedule real quick over the next couple of weeks.
Wait, time out. Wait. I got my pen. Let me write this down.
Yeah, write it down.
Go.
Write it down. I am going to be in for Larry O'Connor, hosting O'Connor and Company the week of December 12th. So 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern time, WMAL, it streams everywhere. You got to go check that out. Then later on in the month, I'm in for Derek Hunter on the Derek Hunter Show, the 23rd of December. And then all of the week between Christmas and New Year's, 9 a.m. to noon. That's also WCBM, but also nationally syndicated. Check that out. By the way, the Lunch Hour podcast, this week's episode is Mary Miller, Congresswoman from Illinois. Next week, John McCown, who is a shipping expert. We're going to talk about supply chain issues. And then the week of the 12th, this obscure gentleman who you may have heard of, you may not have heard of, his name is Jerry Rogers. He joins the Lunch Hour
that was
podcast.
Fun, wasn't it? I'm surprised that you haven't aired that already. It'll be your number one show.
I'm hoping it's going to be the number one show. That's why it's the last one in the hopper right now. So we're saving the best one for that. But we got recording more shows there. So check that out. Leave a review here if you love what you hear on Andrew and Jerry Save the World. Leave a review. Tell your friends. Tell your neighbors. Tell your friends' neighbors. Tell your neighbors' friends. Jerry, what do you need people to do?
Find the truth, plant your feet, and stand firm. God bless you.
Have a great week, everybody. Have fun, and please stay safe.